everybody. Welcome to TMI Live with Moondog. And today, well, I'm wearing my Keltec shirt for no reason at all, but because today we're going to be talking about a little bit about anime. And as I just posted a reply to Porsche Speedster on the side chat, you're going to go in a little foray on cars. But anyway, just before we get started, though, I just wanted to plug our episode sponsor, which is Aura. And Aura is the online cybersecurity company that I use. They have a bunch of great services all bundled together that you usually will find in separate online service companies. But here you're getting a whole suite of services for all one low monthly fee. You've got credit monitoring, you've got fraud alerts, you've got spam blockers. But the most important features, at least to me, have been the data broker removal service. And if you don't know, there are companies out there that buy and sell our personal and in many cases private information, not just our names, but also our email addresses, our physical addresses, our phone numbers, to anybody who was willing to buy them. Of course, there are legal, or at least entities like marketing companies, but also political organizations. But then you never know who is buying our information. It's bought and sold by these data brokers. Well, you can formally request to have them removed, but then you have to go through each and every one of them, and there are potentially hundreds of them out there. Well, if you use Aura, you can just in one easy setup, you can just press a button and it will contact all of these data brokers on your behalf and get your information expunged from their servers. So it's a very invaluable service. There's companies out there that just do that, but here you're getting that key service plus all the other services. Oh, and they also give you $1 million of identity theft insurance, which is, yeah, that's significant. So God forbid you ever have your your identity stolen, or somebody registering stuff in your name. Well, you have to get that. You're going to go through a huge hassle to address that, and more than likely incur a lot of legal fees. Well, if you have insurance to cover all those costs, well, that's a big relief. So check them out. Use my link, aura.com/moondog. Get 14 days of free trial, and let me know how it works for you. All right. Let's start off with our contest. Now, every episode, I like to give away some prizes. Well, today's episode prize is going to be a Vector Optics poker chip and a Vector Optics little mini tab patch. So actually, I'm going to give away three of these sets, and the first two are also going to get a big patch along with a little tab patch. So you're potentially, you got three winners of the poker chip. But the poker chip also, not only is it a cool little poker chip, but it gives you 12% off your purchase at Vector Optics. So we're going to be giving those away today. And to enter the contest, it's absolutely free. All you have to do is write into the side chat the mystery brand that I'm going to give you clues about. And I've already got some answers already. If you know this brand by their logo, please put hashtag and their name, and you'll be recorded on the automatic software that is part of StreamYard. So there you go. There's your first clue. And yes, it is a car brand. All right, let's get into. Oh yeah, and as Pick says there, maybe I spelled it right. I hope so. And let me just double check I have it inputted correctly. Yeah. All right. So yeah, just make sure you spell it correctly, and use Google if you have to, just to make sure that you spell that correctly on the side chat. Okay, so let's get into the new videos. And the reason I'm giving these away is because one of my newest videos on my channels is a Vector Optics review of the Continental 2-12 44 millimeter objective MPVO from Vector Optics. And what makes this one unique is that it uses German shot glass for the optics. And for those of you shot glass is a really big name in optics. It's up there with like Swarovski, Zeiss, Bosch and Lomb, and Corning. Yeah, in terms of some of the top glass makers in the world. Well, and of course Nikon. Shot glass makes some of the best ultra low dispersion glass out there, and it's used by a lot of the top end European scope makers out there. So the fact that this is a Chinese made scope but uses this glass, and from my testing of this MPVO, it's pretty nicely constructed. It is less than half the price of a comparable scope, European scope, so I thought it was a good value. Anyway, here's a little taste of the video. We are looking at the peak of Mount Davidson, approximately 14 to 1500 yards away, with the scope set at its lowest power to give our best overall view through the glass. And this you can German see that unique glass is amazing. That's a unique As we go up reticle from there. 2 power up to about halfway in its magnification range, take a look at that fast acquisition ring and see how, because it's a first focal plane reticle, how this works out. Now, as I get it to about its halfway point, a little past 6 on the magnification ring, that fast acquisition ring totally disappears from our field of view, and that's how it was designed to work. And just looking at it at its halfway point, the overall image is still quite sharp, clear, and color accurate. Now, let's bring this all the way up to its maximum magnification of 12 power and take a look at that hilltop there. This view is just tremendous. And we can clearly see the trail marker sign on the top of the hill there. And I should point out, you could also make out the hikers on the hill, not just on the top of the hill, but walking across the trail below the top of the hill there. And that's how clear it is at 12 power. That is that white object peeking up above the bushes, a bit to the right. Yeah, so it's a really nice, the color rendition on the scope is excellent. I got one comment that, yeah, they could see chromatic aberration. Yeah, okay. Yeah, absolutely. You're going to see chromatic aberration, as my buddy Dark Lord of Optics says. Every scope has chromatic aberration. It's all about how much chromatic aberration it has at various magnifications, and because that can reduce the amount of intrinsic or perceived sharpness of an image. And this one has really relatively little compared to other scopes. Again, it's owing to the extra low dispersion German shot glass, but at a very affordable price for what you're getting. At least that's my take on it. That is the quick take on this particular scope. Check out the video, and of course, if you check out my website review, you'll also find a discount link currently. But if you win one of these, you can get a little bit bigger discount than the one that discount code that they gave me, that Vector Optics did. Okay, let's bring up our videos for this. And for my Moondog reviews channel, which is also my sort of geeky stuff channel, I also it's a crossover between my Moondog Go, which is my travel channel, and my Moondog reviews channel. That's why I posted the same video on both channels at the same time. It is of my visit to the anime festival, the Let's Glow Anime Festival in Fremont, California, which is south and the other side of, it's on the East Bay, the other side of the bay of San Francisco Bay from San Francisco, and pretty far south, almost to San Jose. And that is along the BART, which is the Bay Area's subway line. Though for most of the rest of the bay, the BART travels on an elevated trackway above the road. In San Francisco proper, it's mostly underground until pretty much, until you get out of San Francisco. All throughout, I may be a little bit wrong about this, but for really like 90% of the BART's stations and the BART path in the city of San Francisco are underground. But elsewhere around the bay, and really most of the BART line is elsewhere in the Bay Area, you can go practically 100 miles on the train line. It is above ground, high above ground, and one of the last stops along the East Bay, one of the East Bay lines, is this town called Warm Springs, and that's where they had this festival to try to get people to use the BART on the weekends, because BART is primarily a commuter train system. So BART is the Bay Area Rapid Transit District, which is the name of the subway line. They've been trying to get people to use BART on the weekends, so they hosted a anime festival, and I have to head it to my daughter, to who's a big anime fan, who clued me in on this, and she actually wanted me to take her there. She took the BART part of the way there because there was an incentive to take the BART, and the first 50 um, attendees got a special giveaway prize. And I warned her to get there early, but she only showed up like 20 minutes early. It was supposed to open at 4, and I figured all the stuff was gone, because already by the time we got there, there was well over 200-300 people, and by the time we left, there was over 1,000 people. Just by sort of guesstimate as the amount of people who were there. This was a very well attended event, but as you'll see a little bit of taste of the event. There were way more people who came out than Bart anticipated, or at least the people who organized it, because there really wasn't that much to see and do there. But here's a little taste of the overall video. So there were quite a number of people there. This is the Artist Alley. So I should point out that the music there, I want to thank my son Sock One for supplying the music. Yes, he actually created that piece of music for the video. Well, he created it for himself, but I used it in the video. So thanks to Sock One for supplying the soundtrack to that. And as you saw there, that's the Artist Alley. There were about a dozen local artists, and they all do work mostly in the kind of anime style. And they were selling their merch, stickers, decals, t-shirts, things like that. But there weren't any big name anime artists or comic book artists there. There were anime decorated cars, which I'll show you next week in another video. But aside from that, and there was some giveaway lines. There was a area to decorate paper lanterns, and there was a line to give away these passport that you could get stamped at different places in the festival. And there were a couple of food trucks. I think there were like 3 food trucks when we got there. And there was a crazy long line for merch that was being sold. It wasn't given away. It was a line just to buy the merchandise being sold by Bart that had their new Bart's anime mascots on it. And there were maybe about a couple of items you can get there, but the problem was there were really only 4 employees that Bart had at the table to sell stuff, and probably only like 1 or 2 square machines to take your cards or whatever. And the line just stretched for forever. It didn't move at all, because my daughter got into the line fairly early, and we were there for a little over an hour, and she barely moved. And so I said, honey, this is not going to work. We should just go, because after about an hour of me walking around, there really wasn't much else to see. So that was the big letdown for me for being there. But it was kind of cool to see that there was that much interest in anime and the Bay Area, and just in general. And that's sort of the topic of today's episode, is this, just focusing on one aspect of this huge interest nationally in anime, which is Japanese animation and other forms of Japanese animated or illustrated art like manga. All right. So this is one of the vehicles actually that you'll see if you watch the full video, the full length video on either Moondog Reviews or Moondog Go. you'll see the whole video of my whole walk around of the festival, which includes these anime character decorated cars, and that's one of them. All right, let's talk about let me get your input actually on some videos. And by the way, I mentioned last week that there was a video that I posted up a few years ago that had to do with the little folding pistol, and I was just um, shocked at how popular it suddenly became. I just want to give you a quick update. Now it's over like 1.4 million views, so that's just crazy. But if for anybody who's watching this and is new to the channel, because I got a bunch new subscribers, so thanks for subscribing, and hopefully you'll find something interesting in today's live stream. Okay. Here's one that's interesting. I'm going to ask you for your help in coming up with some ideas for a thumbnail or a headline for a video that I'm working on and that will be published this coming weekend. And that is of an ammo test. I'm going to be testing TAC-22, which is Norma TAC-22, and comparing it against CCI standard in my CZ457. Now, I recently posted a comparison video of me shooting the same ammo in my Ruger Precision Rimfire. Now I'm going to be testing it in my CZ457. Um, so Porsche Speedster asks a question, how much money does that video generate? Not that much, to be quite honest. And I can just do a quick, let me just say if I can bring up the stats on that, because it's a YouTube short. YouTube videos in general don't generate that much money. It's something like I can get $1 for every 300 views. So yeah, a video has to, even if you figure it that way, if I get 1,000 views on a video, I get like maybe $5, like really like $4.80. Yeah, I'm not retiring anytime soon on the videos that I've seen, but the shorts videos get even less. Yeah, it's like a fraction of that. But let's see, how much does that generate? And it generates it from ad content. So let's see, that is the ounce video. Let me see if I can bring that info up on that. So that video generated about $280. So not bad. Of course, the time I spent to go to SHOT Show, and I think that paid for like one night at the hotel when I went to SHOT Show. So yeah, I'm slowly working up to not losing money on this channel, on all my YouTube channels. So yay. Okay. Yeah, as Tim says, almost enough to pay for the ammo in this testing. Maybe, I'm hoping. Yeah. That's one of the things, the reason I've been shooting a lot of budget ammo is because I can't afford any of the match ammo to test. Yeah, as Portrait Speaker says, 280 is 280. Yes, I am quite happy that I got $280 for a 2-year-old video. I wish I could get that much for all of my shorts videos, but hey, I'm not complaining. I'm just still kind of just blown away by the interest in that video. Yeah, but again, that's over 1 million views. That is by far like over 10 times higher than any video I typically that is typically on my channel. So there you go. All right. So see if does anybody have any thoughts on a good headline other than TAC-22 versus CCI standard, which is, fine. That's what I'm going to go with for sure. But if you have any thoughts, what would be a good thumbnail, headline, or for the title of the video? One thing that's interesting is recently YouTube has allowed A/B testing of titles, which they hadn't before. So basically, when you upload a video, you put a title in, and that's what it is. But now they're allowing A/B testing, what that means is that you can have two different versions of a title, and it will randomly display that one of those two, or in this case, up to three, one of those three to people as the first time they see it. And depending on how many What I'm trying to see, and what they're offering is to creators, is the ability to see which headline catches more attention, gets people to click on the video more. So in the case of the previous videos I had, I could put up to 3 different types of thumbnails, and when I go look at the analytics on that video, it'll show me um, which of those 3 thumbnails got clicked on the most by people. And people usually, you might be able to see all 3 of the videos if you go to like the YouTube page for the on my channel and keep on hitting refresh. It may serve you a different thumbnail. So that's but for the average person, they're only going to see one thumbnail. So you're seeing what I'm seeing is which thumbnail makes people is more popular. Peg, is that your idea for a headline? It could be. I don't know, but I'll take a screenshot of that if that is. And Tim Mooney's got a good one. And can it KY? So I'm not quite sure what KY. I mean, well, how does that KYL refer or connect to TAC 22? As a question I have. But anyway. All right, let's move on. And if you have any ideas, and if you see this video after the live stream, please feel free to post a thought to a good headline in the comment section. Oh, so KY, yes. Okay. Oh, yes. Know your limits targets. Yes. Okay. I get it. And Pick also said this. Yes. Okay. All right. So here's our next clue for the prizes, which let me just show you again. These are the Continental poker chips with the discount code on them. Well, here is the next brand clue. This Japanese brand's cars are known as Rice Rockets, among other Japanese brands. But their most famous brands include the EVO and the Mirage. So if you know, and the Eclipse. I don't know why I put the Mirage, because the EVO is a Mirage. That's a typo on my part. So the more well-known brands are the EVO, Mirage, or Lancer, and the rest of the world. I believe the brand is called Lancer. In the U.S., it's the Mirage, and the Eclipse. So, Precious Piso says he loved his 3000. Those are nice cars. I mean, they were nice looking, and they perform pretty well. But maybe you tell me how. The fact that you loved it probably means it did perform quite well. And it's a shame that you really don't see much of their other cars here in the U.S. But like a lot of other car makers, because of the way that taxes are on vehicles, and basically regulation and legislation, it's encouraged all the car makers to make SUVs and trucks in the U.S. And we don't get to see much of their other car lines that the rest of the world gets to see. And that's why, for example, you don't see the Eclipse anymore. You don't see the 300 GT. I'm not really even sure what other vehicles they have in Japan, but yeah. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I've owned quite a number of Japanese. Well, kind of a number. The majority of the cars I've owned have been Japanese, but it didn't start off that way. This was actually the first car I owned. It is the Ford POS. I mean, the Ford Mustang 2. It was by many considered the worst Mustang ever made. And the reason I owned it is because it was a hand-me-down from my mother, who owned the car, and she bought it because really of the reputation of Mustang, being a muscle car, of a fast, sporty car in the U.S. And she bought it, but yeah, I believe she had. I'm pretty sure that she had the six cylinder, but this was the first year the first model that they offered the Mustang, and anything other than an 8 cylinder They even made a 4-cylinder version, which was even worse in terms of and the acceleration was just mediocre on the thing. And she also, because she didn't know how to drive stick, she got the automatic version, which wasn't even which definitely made it even slower in terms of acceleration. So yeah, it was not a great car. And by the time I got it, it was not really well maintained. It was, it ran most of the time, but it was a slow starter, that Mustang, and I did not like that car. And it was a gas guzzler too. So to put, well, so were most American cars, that were built in the mid '70s. Uh, a friend had a Mustang too, which was a rebadge. Yeah, essentially. I mean, it shared a lot more with Pinto than anything else. Uh, yeah, it was not a great car, and that kind of soured me on American cars for the most part after that, because the first car that my mother got after this was a Toyota Supra, and that was like night and day in terms of reliability. Also, I'm still a sucker for those pop up headlights. Because of um, of aerodynamics and legislation. That's the reason why those things came to being the pop up headlights. But I always thought they looked super cool growing up. So that Supra had those, and yeah, the first car when I could get a car after this Mustang was an Acura Integra. That was the first year that the Integra, actually, it was first year that when an Acura came out. There were only really two cars. There was the Legend and the Integra, and I had a 1985 Acura Integra. And yeah, I love that car. And the car just ran and ran. I put well over 144,000 miles on it by the time I left it, when I moved to New York, because there was no need to bring a car to New York City. But I ran that thing. I drove everywhere in that car. You can see. Let me just bring that up. Yeah, it was red, and I can tell you just from anecdotal evidence that you get more speeding tickets when you have a red car. Probably it had to do with how I drove, but also, yeah. Um, that was also the last red car I owned. But in terms of reliability, it was a great car, and I really liked. Um, I mean, it wasn't the fastest car. Hondas were, you could tune them to be faster, but they were meant to be reliable. Hondas are reliable. They're a little heavy. They didn't have the most peppy engine, but the Integra wasn't bad. It was a dual overhead cam, 16 valve, little rocket. And there were faster cars for sure. And I didn't tune my car. And not soon after, they came out with an NSX, which was it was like the first Japanese supercar. That was a sexy little beast. But I pretended that I was in an NSX in that car. Oh, Porsche Speedster says, I remember driving from LA to Berkeley in a 1987 Integra. We were doing 25-second miles. Yeah, I drove from LA to Berkeley quite a number of times in this car. Actually, while I was dating one of the girls in this picture, actually, she was going to Cal. So yeah, I remember that drive. And that was great about that car is it really just sipped gas. So, and gas was relatively cheap back then too. So that wasn't too bad. And now, well, I just this is one of the other Japanese cars I've owned, and that is a Mitsubishi Outlander. The Outlander here, I just got back from my mother, who, for those of you who've been watching, I had a broken hip, and I had to help her move up here to Northern California, where I can keep a closer eye on her, make sure that she's all right. But anyway, she hasn't. I gave her this Mitsubishi, this Outlander, about 5 years ago, um, and um, and I bought a Kia instead. But I really like the Mitsubishi. It was also one of the cheapest SUVs out there. But more importantly to me, the reason I bought it when I first moved to San Francisco was it is it's it was one of the shortest SUVs in terms of the overall length, which is important in San Francisco or any major city because parking spaces are kind of hard to find on the street. And oftentimes in residential areas, there are there's in San Francisco, especially, a lot of the homes are townhomes that are right next to each other, so there's no space um, in between, and the space between the driveways is very small. And most SUVs you can't fit in the space between the driveways, so you can't park there, or if you do, you're probably going to get towed because your part of your car is extending into somebody's driveway and potentially blocking them from getting out of their house. The reality is 90% of the people who live in houses with a garage in San Francisco don't use their garage because there's not enough space. Everybody uses their garage as storage. But the point of the matter is you're not supposed to extend into somebody's driveway. Oh, that's the reason why one of the reasons I bought the Outlander. Also, it had at the time the best gas mileage of any regular SUV. um, I could regularly get about 28 to 30 miles per gallon on in just driving on the highway flat. But it's not as good when you're in San Francisco driving up and down the hills. Usually I'm only getting like 16 miles to the gallon. But if I'm driving on the highway, you can easily get like 29, 30, 31 miles per gallon. So again, it's very economical. Not the most luxurious ride though. It's pretty loud and noisy, and I got the base model because I'm not huge into spending money for luxury upgrades or features on cars. I've after I not having a car for a long time, I realized I really don't need all those amenities for the most part, and I wanted to just. And I think cars for the most part are money holes. So you're going to lose money on your car as soon as you buy one. So might as well lose the least amount of money. The reason I put these photos up is because after I got the car back, or as I'm going through the process of getting from my mother, who hasn't driven the car in like 2 years, and I found that there were rats actually living in that at some point must have been living inside of the engine compartment, because you can see there on the right some of the insulation, the sound insulation, has been eaten away. And you could, first time I saw it, like, what the hell happened? Did this get burned? No, because I could see look like little bite marks all over the place. And I found in some of the crevices around the hinge rodent poop and acorns. So, and oh, when I emptied out the cabin air filter, all of this insulation and acorns fell out. So they were either living in the blower compartment or something. That's really super gross. And anyway, so yeah, the car was not in great shape after I got it back from my mom. So, but it still runs, and it runs pretty well. Also wanted to call up some of the folks who posted on here about their cars. Yeah, let me know on the side chat. Do you how many folks out there own a Japanese car, for that matter, and what made you pick that? So TJ Fishing says, I have a Subaru. Subarus are great, very dependable cars, and overbuilt because they are Subaru is based in Hokkaido, which is the northernmost island, and they get some pretty bad winters up there. So those, I mean, they're like the Volvo of Asian cars, because they're made to survive those kind of winters. Driving through snow, driving through mud. So they're great cars. Of course, now they're a little in the culture wars. It seems like every the demographic of Subaru has changed quite a bit than I remember it from the 80s. Tim Mooney says, my sister had an Integra for a bit, and they don't have that car. The Integra is no longer around anymore in terms of as a model. It got subsumed by the RSX, and now, of course, I don't even know if they still sell anything in the US, RSXs. And Tim Mooney says, mine was a 283 V8. So right there with you. The first car, and Boomstick says, the first car I ever had was in Austin, America. I had to drive it home in reverse. His first drivable car was a Chevy Vega. And TJ Fishing says, my first car was a two-door Escort Mark I, 1971. Wow. I don't even remember the Escorts being around in 71, but yeah. Okay. That's great. And Tim Mooney says, my father had a 61 Impala 283 tri-power. Yeah. But when 60s were when American cars were good cars. I mean, there's still a few cars that are worth buying and driving now, but yeah, through the 70s for the most part, except for some bits of nostalgia like the Trans Am, or if you're really into Corvettes, all of the big car makers really just rested on their laurels from the 60s and 50s. TJ Fishing says, did they have Yugo cars in Australia? I hope not, but maybe they did. TJ Fishing is in Australia, so that's the reason why he asks. And Tim Mooney says, a boat. Yeah, a lot of American cars, especially the big sedans, were essentially boats. Boats on wheels, in terms of the amount of space you had with them and how they drove. You really had to sort of like cruise steer with them. You just sort of had to go with the flow. What I liked about a lot of the smaller Japanese cars, especially with my Outlander, is it is very nimble. It has a really tight turning radius for an SUV. I don't know if I mean, some of the crossover SUVs, it really is almost the size of a crossover SUV. So it has a much tighter turning radius, much tighter than a full-size SUV. And technically it's a full-size SUV, but it's one of the smallest full-sized SUVs. But I'm always blown away by how tight I can I can do a U-turn on a street that I would definitely need to do a 3-point turn with on most other cars. Okay, so this is what I want to share with you is this Outlander that I have, and it relates back to the brand, of course, the mystery brand that we have today. But I want to get back to the main topic of today's show. And last week I talked about rom-coms, which are the romantic comedy animes, and the fact that anime is the only genre that I know that has rom-com shows, TV shows. You don't see those in Western animated shows. But today's rabbit hole is this new movie, Demon Slayer Infinity Castle, which is out. And it is right now the most popular movie. It's the #1 film in the US in terms of box office. And that's not just the most popular film, the #1 film, animated film. It's the #1 film right now, which is kind of wild. And it is an anime, and it is smack dab of you're not watching the first episode you're pretty much near the middle or towards the end of the whole series thus far. So I thought it would be helpful for me to just give a little bit of an introduction in case that, you or your kids or your grandkids are dragging you into this movie, so that you're not coming into it totally without any context of it. Yeah, I'd be interested if you do end up going to see this movie and you still don't know anything about it after this. What do you think? What did you think of the movie? But I mean, I'm trying not to give you any spoilers. To be perfectly honest, I have not seen the entire anime either. I am rapidly trying to catch up to my wife and my son, who are avid fans of this anime. And oddly enough, I've caught the last 6 episodes with them because they wanted to watch this new movie that's come out, and they wanted to finish up on the series. So let's just start off. Demon Slayer is a shonen anime, and it's a genre, as we talked about rom-coms. This is a shonen battle anime, and what it is shonen animes is a category of anime, and it really just means young men or adolescent boys. And as that kind of implies, it's stories that appeal to adolescent boys or young men. And but that in and of itself, there's many subgenres in there, but that's just sort of like the target market in general, which the shonen anime tries to reach. This is also a battle anime, and that's another genre. And some notable examples of them are Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, or My Hero Academia, which those other two are fairly popular, somewhat mainstream animes. But for those of us who grew up in the 90s, you may have seen Dragon Ball Z on after late night on MTV or something, or on cable. And those animes are where the main gist of it is primarily the protagonist is training and fighting in big battles, and most of the anime is either about tournaments or fighting or getting stronger. Oftentimes it has to do with martial arts, or maybe it's about magic or technology, and the most of the plots revolve around competitions. There's another Demon Slayer also crosses into horror anime, and one of the examples of that is Death Note. That's also a bit of a niche anime, but you'll see that referenced a lot. And there aren't very many horror anime. There are animes with horror elements to it, and just like the name implies, it's just like horror movies that we are familiar with. And some of the precursor animes to Demon Slayer, which is an anime series, by the way, are Bleach and Inuyasha, which came out, I'd say about 10, maybe 5-10 years ago. Inuyasha came out in the 90s. Bleach came out in the early 2000s, and they were long-running anime series. And why is Demon Slayer popular? Well, the animation is amazing, really high quality in terms of the movement, the angles that they draw, and the character designs are great, and just the effects. The look of it is just one of the top of all the animation genre animation out there. The quality is really top notch, and the stories are very compelling. They deal with family bonds. The main characters are siblings, and it's all about the love and the loyalty to family and friends. And it's also about perseverance. That the protagonist, almost gets killed, and beat up, but he doesn't give up. And it's not just very superficial. You can see, like, oh man, the kind of difficulties that he has to go through and surmount. It's generally a really good stories overall, and the stories are relatable, and the characters are very some of them are very unusual and very quirky, and they definitely stand out. There are some that are kind of cliche, but then there are some really unique characters and portrayals in the anime series, which these are all reasons why it stands out. But I want to just give you a little bit of a primer. Here's the main protagonist. His name is Tanjiro. He is a young boy as the anime starts, maybe preteens or maybe a young teenager. He lives up in the mountains with his family, and they're very poor. They live. He starts the anime out bringing charcoal to sell in town, and his family gets killed, except for his sister. And I know that's a bit of a spoiler, but you'll see that it all happened in the first episode. And it's about him learning to become a demon slayer. And as the name implies, slay demons. And that's who killed his family. But you'll find out as the series goes on what connection his family does have. But his family's pretty poor. They're not like super special or anything. But you'll find out that they do have ties, and the reason why he has the skills he does, or skills that he develops and hones over the series. And as I mentioned, the secondary protagonist is his sister, Nezuko. Super cute. That's his younger sister. And what you're seeing here is on her mouth isn't scuba gear. It's a piece of I think a special bamboo. And the reason she has that around her mouth is because she was turned into a demon, and demons eat humans. They need to eat human flesh to live. And one of the ways that she keeps from uh, being consumed by her hunger for human flesh is by biting down on this special treated bamboo piece. Um, I don't know if they changed that bamboo piece from over time or whatever, but that's how her character usually is. She's biting down on this piece of bamboo there. And one of the things that was interesting about this show, it's what should have been a clue as to the popularity of it is like 2 years ago, and on Halloween, I saw a bunch of young girls in this costume, and that should have been a clue because there were more girls there wearing this costume than just about any other costume. I mean, it was a pretty tight. Maybe a couple of the girls were wearing, Frozen or some Disney costume, but this by way was at least tied to any other costume that the young girls were wearing. So that just shows you kind of popularity that this anime had. And one of the other characters I should point out, you'll see, is going to be Muzan, and he is the antagonist. He's the demon lord that you'll learn about, and he is the oldest demon in Japan. And you find out about his backstory, and his not only is he the most powerful demon, but he can also create other demons by giving them his blood, and he can kind of control them. And so he's created his army that defends him, and you'll see that. So he's like the big bad guy throughout the whole thing, but all of his other minions are the big bad guys throughout the different parts of the story. And there are other characters here as well. In the beginning, you'll see these other two interesting characters. One is named Inosuke, or I'm pronouncing this Inosuke, and Inosuke. He's the guy that's not like a minotaur there. He's a guy who's wearing the head of a boar, and he was raised by animals, so that makes him a little weird. He's constantly yelling. And the other character, the blonde-haired boy, Zenitsu, he's a coward. But they're all demon slayers. But his special power is that even though he's constantly afraid and he's and hiding, if he gets knocked down unconscious or falls asleep, then his intrinsic demon slayer powers come out, and he's a badass at fighting. But he only is like that when he's out of it, when he's totally unconscious. I find the characters, I mean, they're kind of endearing. They're throughout the entire series. I find them to be a bit annoying at times, but you take that for what it is. Tim Mooney says, makes you wonder what kind of drugs the writers would take. Yeah, it's definitely unusual. And yeah, the fact that one of the characters wears a hollowed out boar's head, that is I've never seen that before in any work of fiction. And there are more demon slayers. Here's most of the demon slayer core. You'll eventually start learning about them about halfway through the series. So there's a lot of them. And one of the things that I'm saying about compelling stories, some of them die. And that's one of the things about anime is, at least good anime, is that they're not afraid to kill off well-loved characters if it's part of the story. It's not like every character has plot armor and that you get hurt, but they miraculously survive. Some of them don't. So it's really compelling storytelling, really great plots on the series overall. For the most part, the writing is exemplary. And if you think this is a lot of characters, this is really more the feeling of how many characters there are, because you're also including all the bad guys in here. So this just gives you a sense of the world building, the depth of this anime. And it's really only been around for like 3-4 seasons here in the US. And so they've really woven in like almost Simpsons level of amount of characters into this anime series. Now, what's interesting is this movie's come out. I should point out this was on the news. I don't know if you heard this. Uh, this movie was the number one movie this weekend, but in Arizona, they arrested this dude in the movie theater for peeing in the movie theater. And the first report I saw was that he was peeing on a kid, and or at least that's what they thought, that he was peeing on a kid who was sitting nearby him. And some of the parent of the child just beat the crap out of this guy. But yeah, if you're going to be peeing inside of the movie theater, I, I'm not going to condone violence, but yeah, I don't necessarily fault the dad for beating the crap out of this guy for peeing on his kid. I think I would too. But the reason I'm bringing this up is this movie has so far earned 70 million in the box office, and it's like that's three times more than the next film that came out last week, which was The Conjuring, which is one of the newer sequels to The Conjuring. But that is just how popular this film is, and I wouldn't have figured. I mean, I'm a big fan of anime, but wow, that just says how mainstream this has become. So anyway, this is my attempt to try to give you guys a little bit of a sense. Like if you get dragged into this movie by your kids or grandkids, you at least know that the main character here on the right is starts off as a kid, and he spends most of the anime learning how to fight. The whole series, learning how to fight and new moves, and he's super kind, he's like like a typical protagonist, super nice guy. He's a kid, but he's doing this to try to find a cure for his sister. And the whole ethos of the anime is just how much love he has for his sister and his friends, and he's willing to give up everything, including a couple of times willing to die to save them, or in some cases willing to die not to do something bad, to do something evil and hurt somebody that he thinks is innocent. And he's just a great role model in terms of sort of the stoicism that I admire in a lead character. I should point out that this movie is on its way to becoming the most popular, or the biggest anime film ever, but it's the biggest anime film released in the US, but it's not the biggest anime film so far in terms of box office ever released in Japan. That title actually goes to an earlier film, Demon Slayer, that got turned into part of the regular TV series. It was the Infinity Train. It's a storyline that that is a big battle that takes part in a train. The movie, or the whole anime, is set in the Meiji era of Japan. That's at the sort of the turn of the 19th century, where Japan was rapidly modernizing. So most of Japan at that time was still living essentially like in the Middle Ages, very rural, very non-technology. But as the industrial age, we're bringing in industrial age technology. They brought in trains. They brought in, as you saw, one of the big bad guy is dressed like Michael Jackson. He is wearing a Western style suit. So this probably is based on that suit, probably late 19th century or early 20th century that the show is set in. But as you can see, most of the characters are dressed in sort of traditional Japanese kimonos. All right. So two other, if you are into anime or are interested in seeing some other anime other than a hack and slash Demon Slayer movie that I could recommend, that it's the other two big anime films. The biggest anime film that used to be this film called Your Name. It's a sort of sci-fi romance movie that is time traveling. And that was the biggest anime film until the Demon Slayer film came out in Japan. And so I still recommend it. You can find it probably on streaming. If you see it, it's it's a it's a really good movie, and it should have won an Oscar, but it didn't. But what did win an Oscar was Spirited Away, and it was the first animated film to win an Oscar, as far as I know. It's directed by Hayao Miyazaki and studio created by Studio Ghibli, which I've covered on previous shows. Um, all practically all of their movies, except for maybe just a less than a handful, are kind of mid, but the rest of them are amazing, are great, almost to a fault. Spirited Away is one of my favorite films. Again, it won the Oscar in 2003 for good reason. So if you're not into um, folks battling demons with swords, I can recommend Spirited Away, which is also kind of a supernatural, but more of a lighthearted fantasy, or Your Name, a sci-fi time traveling fantasy film. And they are animes, but they're really good. So check them out if you're not into seeing Demon Slayer. All right, so let's wrap up things for today. We'll get into the contest. I also wanted to point out that I'm still having the contest on my website to win a TPO 60 power scope, 60. That's right, 60 power scope, and I'm going to post up a link to directly to that. All right, so there's the link to the contest. And you could always go to the contest, find out about contests on my website. Go to moondogindustries.com/contest, and you can see what are the newest contests that's up. But here's a direct link to that, and you can enter for free just by subscribing to Moondog Go. And my Moondog Go channel is almost to the point where I can monetize the videos I post on there. It is over 1,000 subscribers now, so great. Thanks for everybody for subscribing. But the other thing is you have to have over 3,000 watch hours. So that's the only thing that's keeping me, holding me back right now is I just need to get more people to watch the videos and for longer. So if you can think of any good way, a contest or perhaps, or any good suggestion for how to get people to watch the videos who are on the channel, and or watch them for longer and not jump off. So anything that would get more people to watch it and watch the videos for longer. Feel free to post that as a suggestion in the side chat or in the comment section. And maybe I'll incorporate it into a future contest, like maybe next month's contest. But for this month's contest, all you have to do is subscribe to my Moondog Go channel, take a screenshot of the subscribe button on Moondog Go to prove that you're a subscriber, and upload it to my website at the link that I posted there. And you'll be entered into the contest, which I'm going to have at the end of the month. And you can win a 60 power scope. All right. And also point out on the website that I'm also having a fundraiser for the St. Anne Middle School for their class trip to DC. So you can put in a donation to that fundraiser, and if you donate the suggested amount for, you could also get one of the products that I'm posting up on the yard sale page that let me just post up a link to it here. So right now I'm giving away a 40 power TPO scope there for a very, very low donation to or relatively low donation to the charity, to the school. So let me just see. Actually, let me give you the amount that so I'm asking for you to, if anybody wants willing to donate $160 to the fundraiser, you get the first person who does that and emails me will get this TPO 40 power scope. So there you go. And here's the final clue to the brand contest here, and I'm going to bring this up here. This brand was founded in Japan in 1870 by Yataro Iwasaki. I think that's how you pronounce it. This multinational corporation makes cars, vehicles, ships, trains, pretty much anything that moves. And it also created the infamous Zero fighter plane in World War II. So if you know who this brand is, type it in the side chat, hashtag the name of the company, and you'll be entered into the contest right now. And the winner will get a patch and a poker chip from Vector Optics, and you can get this on the back of this is a code to get 12% off any of their scopes or products on their website. So there you go. You get a Vector Optics poker chip and a patch. So let me just give you one more chance to type in the name of the brand on the right, and we're gonna get. Let me just bring up while I bring up the page, and there we go. All right, we got 4 entries. So somebody's going to be 3 people are going to win. So let's start. Let's see who's the first winner of and also the first 2 winners will get the extra large patch as well, and a bonus patch. So let's draw the first winner, and who's it going to be? Vadim. Congratulations. Okay, Vadim is our first winner. All right, let's go for our second winner. And that's going to be Tim or Portia. Pick. Congratulations, pick. All right, so you 2 guys are going to get the extra bonus patch. And our final winner is going to be, is it going to be Tim or is it going to be Portia Speedster? It's going to be Tim this time. All right. Congratulations, Tim. All right, everyone. Thank you. For those of you who won, be sure to send me an email. And I've got a new email address for you to send it to. Here, send it to contest@moondogindustries.com. And in the subject line, write in #Mitsubishi, and so I can easily find it. And do me a favor. I know all of you guys have been past winners, but do me a favor and write in your shipping address. And here's another thing: if you don't want the prize to be shipped to you, you can have it shipped to a friend if you'd like. Just let me know who you want the prizes to be shipped to in the email, and I will send it to them. Anyway, thanks again to everybody for watching this show, and hopefully you got a little bit of some of my enthusiasm about anime. And anime is just a type of film, cinema, or media. That's like saying I'm a fan of movies. Well, yeah, what kind of movies? So anime has a ton of movies that are just complete crap, but some of the good ones are good ones. And if you're not, but don't just because it's a cartoon doesn't mean that it does not appeal to just regular adults like us who like to watch a good story and a good tale told in a very relatable way. So check out Demon Slayer, especially if you have younger kids who are probably into it. You don't have to just do a drop off. Go sit down with them, and especially with the crazies out there like that one guy. Yeah, maybe you should stay, and just to make sure things are going to be all right at the theater. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. And before you jump off, be sure to hit that like button. And thanks again, and for watching. And we'll catch you next week. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. You be safe out there. God bless. Moondog out. Hey, I'd like to know what you thought of this video. Leave me a comment or chat with me on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, MeWe, Instagram, or Locals. And if you want to see all of my videos, go to moondogindustries.com.